Dude, I mean, does anyone actually want to play football anymore? Like, this is crazy to me. I always wait until Sundays, or Saturdays, I'm sorry, as many of you know, to do every single matchup, find the must-start sit wide receivers. Sometimes I do running backs as well. And the reason I wait until Saturday is to figure out a lot of these injuries, man. And we had a lot figured out yesterday. I mean, we had, plenty of time to figure out that Lamar Jackson was sitting, Justin Fields was starting. In all likelihood, Kirk Cousins is starting, and, A.J. Brown is out as well. So it was like we had plenty of time to figure all that out. And then even still, I missed some things. Like afterwards, Drake London ruled questionable now. Legitimate 50-50 shot. They're going to test him out today pregame to see if he can go. There's others too. I mean, like, what is going on? Like, does anyone want to play friggin' football anymore? Like, it's getting annoying to the point where I'm like, dude, okay. I often on this channel romanticize about, the old, like, when I was growing up watching football, it was like people were getting friggin' blasted. Like every single weekend, like if you were a receiver, you had to protect yourself with the middle. Quarterbacks had to prevent from throwing hospital balls. Sometimes I feel like we need to go back to those days, like toughen people up, man, because there's just so many injuries and everybody's missing time. So, I mean, people have legitimate decisions to make with Drake London this week. Legitimate decisions. The good thing is he's playing at noon. So we should find out here in the next, 45 minutes or so, 30, 45 minutes on whether he's going to go or not, because they're going to be testing him pregame to see what's up, so I don't know, man. There's a lot going on. I wish I had all the answers, but clearly waiting till Saturday wasn't enough. So I appreciate y'all being here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel to show your support. Join FS Roundup to really support me, support the channel. Go start a start-sit poll and get live feedback results from the rest of the community and vote on their polls as well. And also use the waiver wire tool. Use my top 250 rankings, all that good stuff. But we're going to answer questions, of course, today. So we're going to go ahead and start from the top right here. K-Sum rolling for us. What's going on? Needy 7142. What's going on? Jose Valdez. What's going on? Nathaniel Perez says, I would like to say, Quentin Johnston, you ruined me. Yeah, that was a bummer for sure. I came on here after that game and, really ripped him a new one. But at the same time, man, I was thinking about this last night, and, I think it's a really popular thing to really just, like, rage drop somebody. Like, it's really easy to just be like, oh, this player's done, right? Like not Drake London, Quentin Johnston. It's like, oh, the last two games, the previous game he got in the end zone, so it wasn't any good outside of the end zone trip. But then this past game, obviously, he blanks. And it's really popular to say, like, he's done. And he's just, like, I got to drop him at this point. The reality is, man, like, he's going to continue to split work. And now they have four options, right? Like, Ladd McConkey obviously is there. Keenan Allen obviously is there. QJ is still there. It's just now that they have Rondé Gadsden really breaking out. There's going to be weeks where people just get left out. And I think QJ was just one of those weeks for him. But there's going to be weeks where Ladd gets left out and Keenan Allen gets left out. And you'll wish you didn't drop Quentin Johnston if you are going to rage drop him. Like, that's the thing. So I would refrain from doing something like that personally. I think a lot of people are on that page, though, right now. Hayden Mishinsky, what's going on? Should I flex Shaheed or Shakir? Yeah, one of the news pieces I saw this morning when I woke up was Rashid Shaheed is a possibility to get traded out of New Orleans. Obviously, it doesn't affect today. I just kind of felt like saying that because, lots of trade rumors, including Brian Thomas Jr. out of Jacksonville, which would be insane to me, to be honest. But Shaheed and Shakir, like, they're both flexible options. Like, I was walking through every single matchup yesterday, finding the must-start and sit receivers. I think the thing with Shaheed that really, like, intrigues me is if you actually look at it, right? Like, go to fsroundup.com. You can see any week for any player. And if you look at the wide receiver production, like Shaheed's consistently getting like close to 10 targets. Last week he had 9 targets. The week 6 he had 6. Week 5 he had 5. Week 4 he had 5. Week 3 he had 6. Like he's been getting a pretty good target share. And of course it just depends on if he gets in the end zone or not. Now, I think what we've seen over the weeks is a more consistent, or really not consistent, just a higher ceiling from Rashid Shaheed than we have with Khalil Shakir. And I think the one thing with Khalil Shakir is that he's mostly just their target guy if he gets them, right? Well, let's look at Dalton Kincaid, because I think Dalton Kincaid, and whether he's playing today or not, is key for Khalil Shakir. Let's see, I guess USA Today, let's see if they have any accurate information, which they usually don't, but true game time call. So the way I'll put this is this. So until we find out if Dalton Kincaid's going to go or not, the way I'll put it is like this. I think if Kincaid plays, I'll go with Shaheed. And again, the good thing is, like, it's a noon game for Buffalo. I think so, at least. Bills, Saints. Or not Bills, Saints. Bills, Panthers. Yeah, that's a noon game. So we should know here within the next, 30 minutes if Kincaid's going to play or not, if he's active or not. So if Kincaid is active, I'll go ahead and play Shaheed because I think his ceiling is higher. But if Kincaid sits, I'll go ahead and play Shakir because they got to throw to somebody, right? And I think that if you look at the game without Kincaid in week 6, Shakir had 5 targets, but he's pretty consistently involved. So I'll go Shakir if Kincaid sits, and I'll go ahead and play Rashid Shaheed if Kincaid plays. Real happy what's going on. Can't decide between Drake May and Bo Nix. Bo has a great matchup and May has a bad one, but it's Drake May. No, I think it's a great question. As many of you know, I brought back the quarterback and tight end rankings this past week, and if you watch that video, they're back-to-back. I mean, because you're thinking the exact same thing I was thinking when I was ranking them, which is that Bo's got a great matchup today versus the Cowboys. I mean, there's no getting around. The matchup is fantastic. The thing that I can't get over is the fact that they're in position to where Bo has just been so inconsistent this year. I mean, really, realistically, he would have been the worst play last week. It would have been the worst play last week if he had not had the fourth quarter, right? So, it's not like you were ever had a really good play from Bo until the fourth. And then May, I think the reason why I have May ultimately over Bo is because when you look at Drake May and the Patriots offense as a whole, well, one thing that they struggle to do consistently is run the ball. So, last week, for example, they beat the Saints. Or not, no, that wasn't last week. Last week, they beat the Titans, right? 31-13. They ended up crushing the Titans. But Ramondre had his best game on the ground, and May still had 23 points, right? My point in saying that is I think that the Patriots really struggle to run the ball well. And so Ramondre a lot of times can't carry them late. So they're going to continue to throw the ball. Now, if you look at today versus the Browns are actually one of the best run defenses in the league, top 3. So I have a hard time thinking that they're just going to run the clock out on the Browns. I think they're going to have to continue to throw to keep up in this game. Not keep up, but keep pace and pace the Browns in points. So that's the reason I'm ultimately going to lead with May. But this is I've seen this question, and I think you may have posted it real happy on FS Roundup a couple times over the last 2 days. Bo Nix versus May, and it's a gut call. I mean, these guys are back-to-back in my rankings, so go with your gut on this one. It sounds like you're leaning May. That's the way I'm leaning personally, too. So that's my 2 cents. I would personally go with May over the matchup for Bo. Really quick, Ksum10 just asked, when you set a poll on FS Roundup, does it ping you when someone votes? Not yet. Actually, I briefly mentioned this. We're considering setting up a notification system on the site, so you would get pinged whenever someone voted on your poll, and also if there's any updates to my rankings. So if you guys want to see a notification system on FS Roundup, let me know, because that could, push us forward in developing that quicker if a lot of people want to see it. Monil Patel, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Mooney or Pacheco half PPR? Packers or Niners defense? So let's go ahead and answer the defense question, because I feel like it's obvious, and I've seen a lot of people, question my ranking of the 49ers defense this week, and I think it's a logical question. Like, I've said this throughout the week, which is that, there's two ends of the quarter that I'm looking at with the 49ers defense, right? The 49ers on one hand are rolling guys out like you and me, right? They're rolling out practice squad guys, like guys that are out there on the free agent market. They're rolling out XFL, arena football. Like, they're rolling out anybody they could find defensively. So it doesn't make any sense that they would be any good, right? And last week, even when they were rolling out just dudes, they only allowed 10 points from the Falcons. Like, it was crazy to see what the Falcons couldn't do with the 49ers defense. And that leads me to the other end of the coin, which is that they both are, like, the reason why they're still good defensively is because coaching is king in this game, especially defensively. If you've got a good defensive coordinator, it solves a lot of problems. And they keep losing guy after guy. And this week they lost another pass rusher, Josh Huff. Like, in theory, they should not be able to apply much pressure at all against CJ Stroud. But they have Robert Saleh. And that's what makes me want the 49ers defense. And ultimately, the way I also look at it is if both the defense of San Fran and Houston as a team were healthy, I would still favor the 49ers. And so with the injuries the 49ers have had, the injuries the Texans have had, it kind of like evens out a little bit. Like, especially losing your best offensive weapon, Nico Collins, which the Texans will be playing without today. So I like the 49ers defense a lot. I will say the one thing that's concerning me is usually whenever I have a ranking like this that people just disagree with, I'm able to go pick up that defense in all of my leagues almost and play them. And most of my leagues, probably 95% of my leagues, I'm playing the 49ers defense today. So it's either going to go really good or really bad. A lot of times when that happens, it's not good. So I will say it does freak me out a little bit, but I've said this all week too, and I was talking to my dad last night about this. I think the Steelers are going to come to play. I think the Steelers offense is going to come to play, and it could be a high-scoring game, and that makes me not want the Packers. Like, the only edge I think the Packers will have is they'll probably sack Aaron Rodgers probably 3-4 times. Like, I think they'll get after Rodgers, but I think he'll still put up points on them. So I think the higher ceiling is the Niners defense, so I'll go with the Niners defense. And then Mooney or Pacheco half PPR. Again, this is it really does come down to who plays in this game. Does London play or does he not? Because if London plays, I'll go ahead and pick Pacheco because I think it could be a very similar game script to how it went last week, which is that they end up just pretty much steamrolling over the Commanders, and there's a lot of rushing upside for Pacheco. I think it could absolutely happen in this game. Like, Pacheco ends up running the clock out, and they just end up having a good day on the ground, and he gets back in the end zone again. But obviously his ceiling is just not that high because Kareem Hunt's going to end up playing, and Brashard Smith is making more of a role for himself. So I don't want to play him, but if London is out there, I'll play Pacheco. If London is not out there, then I'll go ahead and play Darnell Mooney. That's the way I look at it. So I'll play Mooney today if London is out, because I also said this on the wide receiver video yesterday. It's easy to forget this kind of stuff, but, Kirk Cousins was the quarterback last year for the beginning of the season for the Falcons. Well, guess who he liked to throw to? Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney had his best work last year with Kirk Cousins. So it's interesting. I'll go with Mooney if London doesn't go, and I'll go with Pacheco if London's out there. Appreciate the super chat. If that is how you jump the line, you can get your question answered immediately by doing a super chat. Tyler Sperry, appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here. There is a spot in my league that is labeled OP, probably meaning offense players. So pick one: Devonta Smith, Romeo Doubs, or Mariota. So yeah, that makes me wonder: is it like a super flex type of situation? That being said, your super flex option, I don't think is any good, right? It's not that it's not any good, but there's a lot of things that make me want to pick. Look at this poll right here on FS Roundup: Kirk Cousins or Mariota. I'm gonna pick Cousins for sure, because the way I look at it is the way I look at it is that with Mariota, if you look at the games that he's played this year, everything has been very he doesn't throw for many yards. So the way he gets his upside is if he runs the ball, right? He had 156 passing yards week 4 against the Falcons defense, 2 passing touchdowns, but he got 20 rushing yards. So he ended up getting 15 points on the week. Then he ends up getting 19.9 fantasy points against the Raiders, has about 200 passing yards, but realistically, the majority of that production came from 40 yards on the ground and a touchdown. That's 10 points alone right there from the rushing. So, Mariota's best shot this week is if he gets in the end zone on the ground, which could happen. It could always happen with a mobile quarterback. But they're playing the Chiefs, and the Chiefs' defense is good, right? That's a good defense, and I don't think that they're going to let up much through the air. And they'll probably force an interception or two off of Mariota. So I don't really like Mariota this week. I think his ceiling probably around 17 points, right? Then I look at Romeo Doubs. I think he has a high ceiling, but the problem is his floor is really low. I think Devonta Smith has to be the play for me. Devonta Smith, to me personally, I think of as a high-end wide receiver 2 this week, low-end wide receiver 1. Obviously, you can't rule out the fact that it's possible that Jalen Hurts, again, continues his normal ways of not throwing for much. But I will say this, I'm more and more in on the passing game because Saquon can't run the ball right now. They can't. He has been ineffective on the ground. And against the Giants, it makes me want to play a guy like Saquon. But at the same time, Devonta Smith has already been the wide receiver 1 by volume, and now that A.J. Brown is out, they've got no other choice but to throw him the ball a ton. So against the Giants defense, I'll go ahead and take Devonta Smith. Appreciate the super chat, man. Good to see you in here, Tyler. Masab123, appreciate the super chat. Flex Breece, Mooney, McLaurin, half PPR. Again, it comes down to London. London playing is definitely going to affect my ranking of Mooney a lot. Mooney, I'll tell you guys this. Mooney actually moved up my rankings before the London injury came to light and after we knew that Kirk Cousins was probably going to play today. Because, again, if you look back to last year, when Cousins was the quarterback, Mooney had some of his best games. He liked Mooney. He did. He liked to throw to Mooney. So Mooney moved up around mid-tier flex territory when I found out that Cousins was going to be playing. Mooney's a good player. He really is. And he's finally starting to get healthy this year. So a lot of people forgot about him, but realistically, he's a solid option. He really is. So I I kind of look at this again as if London doesn't play, I'll play Mooney above both those guys because I think Breece and Terry's upside is capped this week. Like, I don't think that Terry in particular, like I said this on the wide receiver video yesterday, if you look at the difference in playing style between Terry and Debo, I would think that someone like Terry is not as good of a play with Mariota because Terry's more of a deep shot guy. And Jaden throws a beautiful deep ball, and he's not as much of like the in-space, short distance type of guy that Debo is. So, like, I think Debo is actually going to be a better play this week than Terry, right? And I would play Breece over Terry because Breece, even though I hate the Jets, the matchup against the matchup against the Bengals is a good one. So if London plays, I'll play Mooney over both. But if London doesn't go, I'll play Breece over Mooney. And Terry's sitting. Regardless of what happens, Terry's going to sit. It's either Breece or Mooney, and it completely hinges on London's availability today. Appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here as well. Alexis Bolanos, appreciate the super chat. Would you flex Darius Slayton or Monungai? Also, with Jackson out, how do you feel about Henry? So I would play Monungai over Darius Slayton. I really do think it's a good trial run, especially now with Lamar out. With Lamar Jackson out, I do feel like the good thing about this one could be it was already a good trial run to play Monungai because it appears that they really do want to make it like the Detroit backfield, right? And it makes sense because Ben Johnson coming from Detroit made that two-back system with Jahmyr Gibbs being DeAndre Swift and Monungai being David Montgomery. So the Ravens being as bad of a defense as they are, it was always going to be a good trial run to see if, hey, is this real? Like, based on the volume last week, seems like that's what they want to do. So I like the idea of playing him. I will also say this. I do think that Slayton is a guy I've just found myself like wanting to take the shot. I'm playing Slayton in one of my dynasty leagues today because all my wide receivers are gone. Like, I've got all wide receivers either out or on bye week, out with injury or on bye. So I had to go pick up somebody, and Slayton was one of the guys that I picked up. Him and Christian Watson. Like, I've got two deep shots at wide receiver. That being said, it's a deep shot. Like, Slayton, it's more of a belief on my end. Like, I do think that he could have upside now that it's Jackson Dart. But would I play him over Monungai, who I think actually could have a good workload this week? No, I wouldn't. I'd play Monungai. And then with Jackson out, how do I feel about Henry? Similar to how I felt lately, which isn't good. Like, I think it only works with Henry if it's Lamar. Because Lamar offers two things for him that a backup quarterback doesn't, right? Like, what Lamar offers is, number one, another threat on the ground that a defense has to take into account. And so anytime you have a rushing quarterback, what often happens is the defense is on their toes because they know that at any point Lamar can run an option. And Henry, as a result, gets a full head of steam. And before the defense even knows it, he's got like a 5-yard gain because they think Lamar might have the ball. So that's taken away from him. Tyler Huntley is not the athlete that Lamar is. Obviously, nobody is. And number two, the problem is that, again, I've said this. A lot of my Derrick Henry buy low hinges on one thing, which is that the Ravens' schedule is weak moving forward. But if Lamar is back, they should be in really positive game scripts moving forward. So, like, if Lamar comes back and they're in a lot of positive game scripts, Henry will be at his best because he can run out the clock. Well, today against the Bears, like, it's ironic because the Bears are still favored, or the Ravens are still favored in this one over the Bears. In large part, I think, because they're at home and off a bye week, but it doesn't make me feel very good about playing Henry today. Like, Henry today is going to be valued as a mid-end RB2. Like, I'd play him over Breece. I'd play him over Chase Brown. I'd play him over Bill Krosky merit, but like Jalen Warren, it's a legit question. So it just depends on what your other options are. I don't feel great about him though, that's for sure. Appreciate the super chat, man. James Cahill, appreciate the super chat. Flex Flowers or Dowdle full PPR? Yeah, I said this about Zay yesterday on the receiver video. You know, being that Lamar's out, it definitely lowers everybody's upside, right? Like the upside of Zay and Henry are now capped without Lamar, and other players like, you know, more touchdown threats, you know, guys like Rashad Bateman and DeAndre Hopkins, like they're pretty much unplayable to me without Lamar Jackson. So it definitely affects things, you know, but the one thing I said about Zay is that Zay's targets have been pretty stable without Lamar. And what's the one issue that we always have with Zay when he plays with Lamar, which is that, you know, he loves to target his tight ends, and a lot of times wide receivers get left out, meaning that Zay Flowers has that low floor. So, like, Zay's floor without Lamar, pretty solid. It's not bad at all. So, I think Zay is a fine play. Now, I think that also, on the other hand, I think that we get to see today more of a workload be for Dowdle, because if you looked at the two options last week, it was a pretty dead even split. But if you look at the efficiency, it was clearly Rico was the better player, right? Like 17 carries, 80 yards basically. Chuba had 14 carries for 31. Like that's just not very good. And so I do think we'll start to see less of a split and more of a Rico dominant backfield. Like today wouldn't surprise me if they can keep pace with the Bills and be able to run the ball the majority of the game. If they can do that and it's not out of hand, I think Rico could be like the guy who gets 18 carries and Chuba gets like 10. That's what I think could happen. So I'll take the upside with Rico. The Bills' defense is not good. The Panthers are on a roll, and yeah, it is Andy Dalton, and it is still the Panthers. Like, we can't trust them. But I think the upside, and this is how I always play, the upside is just higher with Rico. So I'll go Rico Dowdle. Appreciate the super chat. Gold Rush 1133. Appreciate the super chat. PPR Flex 1. Chuba, Stevenson, Waddle, Tez, or Marks. So there's a clear favorite in my mind to me. Chuba, not him because he's in a split backfield still. And again, I think that there's a possibility he could be an even less split and he gets less work. Ramondre, I don't think is going to have a good day against the Browns. I don't like him. Tez is a solid play. I think he's a good upside play. And Woody Marks could be an upside play as well. But ultimately, I think the Texans offense is just bad. The guy who's my favorite, and I've said it a bunch this week, I really like Waddle this week. I think he's going to be a good play. Like, if he can stay healthy, which, like, is a question anyways, but especially this week because he was on the injury report. Now he's not, but he was on the injury report earlier this week. The difference between, like, this week and last week, and I've said this all week, trust me when I say this. Like, it's very obvious if you look back at just the history of the Dolphins. The Dolphins are a bad team if they're out of their element weather-wise. If they are not playing in Miami where it's hot and humid and comfortable for them, they're not going to be good. If they're playing in the snow or the rain or sleet or cold or windy, like, they're not a good weather football team. They never have been with Mike McDaniel. So last week they played putrid football against the Browns because that game was a nasty weather game. That fell right into the Browns' favor. That's why the Browns did so well, and the Dolphins couldn't stop a nosebleed and do anything. But this week, they get to play in a dome. They're playing in a dome in Atlanta. I think they're going to do a lot better offensively. We'll see a much better performance from them offensively. And Waddle, like outside of this past week, has been a really good play. Like, you can look at all the other weeks without those bad weather games. Like in Miami versus the Chargers, he had almost 16 fantasy points, full PPR, almost 100 yards. Week 5 in Carolina, not bad weather, 23 fantasy points. Week 4 against the Jets at home when Tyreek Hill left the game. A little bit cheap, but like 2 games without Tyreek out of the 3 were good for Waddle. I think Waddle is definitely the best play as far as upside and floor goes out of the bunch. So I'll easily go Waddle. Appreciate the super chat. Just really quick before we answer. A lot of people are saying, yeah, they like the idea of a notification system. Notifications would be cool. Love the poll idea in general. Great idea. Appreciate that. Yeah, I think that was majority of that was really my partner, who's a great developer of the site. Like, my partner has made the site look beautiful. I mean, everything you guys see and enjoy about the site, that was him. I am basically chief marketer of the site. Like, that's our roles. He's a great developer. He's fantastic with design. He looks, he makes the site look fantastic. And then Phenom TA says, is there a way to view your poll without having to make a vote? Yeah, you can look at the results of your poll, but it's just you're talking about, you can go to, so here's what you can do. You can go to view all polls, and then you can see like all the votes on the polls. So you don't have to vote, but it's better to vote, obviously. All right, next super chat was Shant Hobbspian. What's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Who would you put in, Tet or Pickens? Yeah, I said this earlier in the week. I think that, I said it throughout the week. Pickens is going to be in good position today, I think. Now, I will say this, and I don't think I addressed this enough throughout the entire week, which is that, if you look at the second corner in Denver, last name is Moss. I forget his first name a lot of times, so let's go look really quick at who the Broncos' second corner is. Broncos depth chart. What's his first name? Feel disrespectful not knowing. Riley Moss. So Riley Moss, he's done really well against opposing number 2s in the league. So it's not just Surtain. Surtain obviously has the name value. People know who Pat Surtain is, and I reference him a lot. Not because of the name value, because I love watching defense, and great defense at that. And Pat Surtain is the single best lockdown corner in the league. He will shadow your number 1 everywhere he goes. So that's the reason I said I think Pickens actually has a better day today, because CeeDee Lamb will get tons of attention from Pat Surtain. Now, on the other end of that, I think that there's a good possibility that Pickens sees a ton of Moss in this game. I think he sees a ton of him, and he's good too. Now, he's not Pat Surtain, but he's very, very good. So Pickens is like a risk. I would say a little risky, but still, man. There's so many things that make me want to pick Pickens over Tet. Number 1 being the Cowboys' offense has been so good this year. They've played fantastic football for the majority of the season. Dak Prescott is really playing at an MVP level. He's just not going to get consideration and votes because they're not winning as many games. But if you look at how the MVP award is voted on, statistically, he should be in the race with Baker Mayfield, with Josh Allen, with Matt Stafford, all those types of guys. He should be right there. But he won't be because they're not winning games. But it doesn't matter for fantasy because they've been great. And Pickens is going to continue to be great in this game against Denver, where I think it's going to be high scoring. The number 2 reason I want to play him over Tet is because, with Andy Dalton, it's very hard to know what they're going to end up doing with the wide receivers. I think if you look at one thing last week, Bryce Young left the game, Andy Dalton threw 7 passes, right? Now, the touchdown did go to Leggett, but if you look back to last year, when Andy Dalton played a good stretch while Bryce Young was dealing with his own issues, Andy Dalton loves, and I mean loves to throw to Xavier Leggett. That's his guy. he's kind of proven that. Now, that was before they had Tet, obviously, but Tet had 5 targets in this game. And the problem is that Tet has built his value this year based off of targets. Like, he has not gotten in the end zone much, and his value is directly linked with the target share that he gets. So, if you're going to lose targets, man, it's going to be a problem moving forward. And I think that Legette is actually a good play. I discussed it a lot yesterday. Tet, I'm worried about against the Bills, not from a matchup standpoint, but new quarterback. The guy likes to throw to Legette. There's problems here. So I'll go with Pickens easily. Appreciate the super chat. Adrian, appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here this morning. League 1, I have Superflex, Kareem Hunt, Bill, Monungai, Swift already in line. League 2 is Flex, Rico, or Kraft. So let's answer League 2's question first. I think that Dowdle is, on one hand, again, I think he will take more of the backfield today. I think it'll be less of an even split. Like, again, if you add up all the opportunities, Chuba had 16 total opportunities last week, and Rico had 18. If you look at who the better player was, it was clearly Rico Dowdle. So my opinion this week is it goes from a 50-50 split, basically, more to like a 65-35 split this week in Rico's favor. So I think Rico has more upside this week. That being said, it is against the Bills, who the Bills have had a bad defense this year, but they're coming off a bye week. They're a better team than the Panthers. So I think that there's room for Rico to not have a great game because they could be in a negative game script. When I look at Tucker Kraft, on the other hand, I think that, if you're looking at like consistent targets, it really the two consistent targets right now are Dobbs and Tucker Kraft. And I'll say this, I said this on the tight end ranking video too. I think that there's a lot of credence to the comparison of Tyler Warren and Tucker Kraft. Like, Tyler Warren in Indianapolis, he's not getting tons of targets on a weekly basis. Like, he's not averaging 10 targets a game. His importance to his offense is not necessarily like Trey McBride's is in Arizona, right? Like, Trey McBride is like their number one always because Marvin is unreliable. And like they have to throw to him all the time. I mean, Trey McBride averages 10 targets per game, regardless of if it's Kyler or if it's Brissett, right? So I think that I think Kraft is the better play because I think the matchup could be in his favor today. Again, they're all projections based off matchup, but I think that Carolina is more likely to be blown out by the Bills today than the Packers are likely to blow out the Steelers. I think the Steelers offense shows up tonight, and I think that they'll be in a pass-heavy game script against them, and therefore improving Kraft's upside. Additionally, the Steelers are atrocious against tight ends. So I'll take Kraft, surprisingly so. League 1, Swift is in the lineup, so it makes it tough to want to play Monungai. Here's the reality. I'll play Monungai over Kareem Hunt for sure because I think Kareem is fast, losing favor in this offense to Brashard Smith. And clearly they want to keep Pacheco involved. Like, they view Pacheco as more of their ground and pound guy, like gets you to tough yardage. But Brashard Smith is going to continue to be used, and that I think hurts Hunt more than it hurts Pacheco. So I'll play Monungai over Kareem Hunt. Here's the problem with Bill, man, and I've said this a bunch this week. Bill has been one of the toughest players for me to rank over the last several weeks. And really the reason why is because like opportunity says that he is their running back one, but at the same time it also doesn't say that he's getting everything. Like if you look at the opportunities last week, in a negative game script, which they will be in again tomorrow night, the opportunities, yes, they favored him, but Rodriguez had 3 carries. McNichols had 5 opportunities total. And Bill had 14 opportunities, and he did nothing with them. Bill hasn't been good in fantasy since that Chargers game. So, like, there's a legitimate problem. I hate playing Bill. I really do. And I hate ranking him too. He's my least favorite player right now to rank. Easily. If I could leave him out of my rankings, I would. But I know that's not practical. I know people need to know what to do with Bill, so I rank him. And obviously, I've got to play him over Monangai because Monangai is so risky, especially since you have Swift already in the lineup. And we just have no idea, like, if they're going to continue this usage with him. Like, they beat the Saints pretty easily last week. And that was his first game of really getting, like, significant work. So I'm sure they want to continue to do that, but, I mean, will they? And will they have the opportunity to do that? Because the Ravens, I'm sure, will put up a fight. It's at home, off a bye week. And the Ravens have to win. Like, the Ravens, if Lamar comes back next week, and they are, what's the record right now? Like 1-5? Yeah, Ravens are 1-5. So if the Ravens come off this week with a loss, and Lamar gets back and they're 1-6, they are really in trouble. But if they can win today, take them to 2-5, that'd be huge. So I think we'll see a good effort from the Ravens today. Whether they win or not is a question, but I really do think that Monangai's risky. Like, there's no question. Bill is too, but I'll take Bill because we know that he's been the lead back. So I'll go ahead and play Bill. Appreciate the super chat, man. Good to see you in here. Lobster Lover 4153. Appreciate the super chat. Hey, man, I'm in a rough position with Mageddon. Between Boutte and Golden, who should I play? It could be a lot worse. You could be in my position. I'm starting Darius Slayton and Christian Watson in one of my dynasty leagues. So, giddy up, right? I mean, ideally, Boutte is the play, right? Because Boutte's ceiling has just been better than Matthew Golden's. The one problem I continue to have with Boutte is just looking at him from a weekly perspective. Like, his upside, and like all receivers, is tied to targets. And Boutte averages anywhere from like 2 to 5 targets per game typically. Last week he had 2 targets. He just caught both of them, and one of them was a touchdown, so he did well. Week 6, he had 5 targets, caught 2 touchdowns. Boutte, the one thing that I like about him is he's been incredibly efficient on his work. Like, Boutte is basically catching like every one of his targets. It's crazy, but like his target share is low, right? Like, so that leads to games like in week 4 where he catches one of his targets for 18 yards, and that's 2.8 fantasy points in a full PPR format. Like, that's just not good enough. You look at the last couple of weeks for Matthew Golden as a result, like 6 targets in week 4. Week 5, they had a bye week. Week 6 against the Bengals, Golden has 5 targets. Week 7, Golden has 4 targets. So his role is starting to iron itself out. I do think there's potential that Watson can like kind of screw some things up a little bit today for the offense tonight. So I'll go ahead and play Boutte slightly over Golden, but I will say that's a really close one. I think my rankings are really close on these guys. Actually, I want to do something. I want to show you guys. I talk sometimes about the comparison feature on our site. I don't really show it that much, so I want to show you guys. This is something that you can do if you have a premium subscription at FS Roundup. $6 a month now. We dropped it from $8.88 to $6 a month to make it more affordable for you guys to have league-winning tools. And this is one of them. So you go to this comparison feature right here, and let's type in Kayshon Boutte. And then let's also type in Matthew Golden. So what this does, when you click on View Full Comparison, it gives you the verdict of who to pick, right? So if you look at this, it gives you a couple different reasons. So Matthew Golden is 11 spots higher in my total rankings than Boutte. But the verdict from the comparison feature is that you should go with Boutte, and here's why. So he has the highest fantasy points per game. He's most efficient with his touches and targets, as I was discussing. And he has the best fantasy points per snap efficiency. So it gives you all of this information to give you the solution and what you should do. So I think this tool is incredible. I don't show this enough on the site, but it is something that you should utilize for your own decisions if you're debating. And especially if you come on here and I tell you guys it's a gut call. Because anytime I say it's a gut call, it's very closely in my rankings. So like my rankings indicate we should play Golden. I've changed my mind. This morning I would play Boutte over Golden. And I would back up the comparison feature on the site. But again, utilize this on the site. This is for premium subscribers. So I know a lot of you in here are premium subscribers. Go utilize the comparison feature. And if you want access to this, get a premium subscription. You'll also get access to the waiver wire tool that automates it. And you get access to my top 250 rankings. That's how you see my rankings attached to this comparison feature. So I'll go ahead and back up the comparison feature, and I'll go with Boutte as well. Appreciate the super chat. That just shows you how fast things can change, man. Because like a couple days ago, I would have stuck with my rankings, but this morning, I'm going to go ahead and go opposite of my rankings. Andrew Myers, appreciate the super chat. Which D do I start? Bills, Bucks, Bears, Niners. There's some good options in there without question. I mean, I have discussed a lot, like the 49ers defense. It's going to be really interesting. Like I've gotten a lot of like pushback and questions about my ranking of the Niners defense this week. And it's understandably so. Like their defense has been ravaged with injuries, and I still think they're a top 10 play this week because they're throwing out guys like you and me, but they still produced last week against the Falcons. So like I get it. The questions on the Niners defense this week. But I will say this, like the one thing that I keep going back to with the Niners is if you just look at it from an injury perspective, the Niners, yes, have been ravaged with injuries defensively, but if you look at the Texans, they're losing their best option this week, Nico Collins. And I'm not just talking best passing option. I'm talking about best weapon entirely. So they're losing him. They have a atrocious offensive line already. And CJ Stroud, like, I will say this. I'm a CJ Stroud guy. I like CJ Stroud, but he is not clean in all of this mess. Like, they look bad. And CJ looks bad too. Like, I'm not saying I wouldn't. Personally, like, obviously I'm not a pro athlete, so he's much better than me. But, like, CJ looks rattled every time he's dropping back to pass. Like, he looks like he's expecting to get clobbered. Right? Like, you can't look at it and take anything else away. So, I think the Niners defense is a good play. The Bills, I don't trust. They're playing the Panthers. I get it. It should be good in theory, but like they've had a couple good matchups in theory that they haven't executed on. So, I think the Bills defense is a very risky play, riskier than the Niners. I'd play the Niners. I think they have a better ceiling. They're just better. The Bucks are a good play too. The Bears, I think the Bears are a good play as well without Lamar. Like, you've got to factor that defense in. They've looked good previous weeks. They should be in good position this week. The Bucks defense playing the Saints, I like that matchup too. The only problem I'm having with the Bucks defense is that they're coming off a short week and they're traveling to New Orleans. Like, not ideal. A little less than ideal. I still think that I'd end up going with I think I probably would end up going with the Bucks defense over the Bears, because the Bucks are just like, I've said this a couple times, the Bucks, if you actually look at them from a fantasy perspective this year, they've had big plays. Like, they're getting after quarterbacks. I think they have like 20 sacks this year. I think they have like 5 interceptions too. Like, they're making plays. And the one thing that I was kind of highlighting over the weeks is how efficient the Saints offense had been. Like, the Saints weren't turning the ball over weeks ago like they are the past 2 weeks. The Saints are starting to turn the ball over because they're trying to start to force wins. And the reality is the Saints talent-wise just have a cap offensively, and it becomes even a better play for fantasy defenses when they turn the ball over. So I think the Bucs will get some turnovers today, and they'll do well. I'll go with the Bucs defense. Appreciate the super chat. G Medina, good to see you in here. Appreciate the super chat. Half PPR, Ferguson or Goddard with no AJ, Rodgers or Caleb. I totally get the argument for Goddard. Goddard was already pretty well ranked this week without AJ, or with AJ. Now without AJ, like I do like Goddard a lot this week. I still don't like him better than Ferg. And it's pretty simple because, again, my argument with CD this week has been Pat Surtain. Now, my argument for Pickens being a little bit maybe off is because of Riley Moss, the corner 2 in there. So that leaves Ferguson, who, I'll be honest, I was impressed with Ferguson last week because last week with CD back in the fold, I expected him to lose work, but he still had 7 targets in this game, and he's a red zone threat. Like, that will continue. So I think that Ferguson is still a really good play. Really, the only upside Goddard has, not the only upside, because obviously it's going to change with A.J. Brown back in the fold, but really, like, Goddard's big thing is that he gets a lot of those, like, Jalen Hurts pitch throws at the goal line. And that's where he's been getting a lot of touchdowns. He's had like 3 touchdowns this year based off those alone. Now, he'll get more work today, inevitably, because they have to without A.J. Brown. But, I mean, Goddard still is, I would say, relatively lower upside. But it's still good. But I just think Ferguson, like, again, last week was big. I really was not big on Ferguson heading into the week last week, and he proved me wrong. Like, he's a key piece to this offense, and Dak is playing out of his mind right now. So, even if CeeDee Lamb and Pickens have a rough day today because of the defensive backs and the quality of those guys that they're playing, I think Ferguson has a good day. I'll go Ferguson. Rodgers or Caleb is a good one. Rodgers is well ranked in my rankings. Let's highlight it with the comparison feature again. Let's go back. Click out of both Boutte and Golden. Let's add Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams and Aaron Rodgers. View full comparison. The verdict is Caleb, and I would back it up. He's 4 spots ranked over Aaron Rodgers in my quarterback rankings. And I think the way I ultimately look at it is he's just got more leg upside, right? Like, Rodgers has no leg upside. Rodgers, and I'm predicting this, like, I do think Rodgers will have a good day because he's going to get up to play in this game. But I will say this, like, in order for Rodgers to have a good day, he's going to have to throw for 4 touchdowns, which, I think is very possible, and I'm predicting that. But it's just easier for Caleb to be able to get 20-plus fantasy points because he can run. And they're playing the Ravens defense today. Like, that to me is like, it's a matchup you can't overlook. You can't afford to not play Caleb in this matchup versus Baltimore. So I'd go Caleb, and I would go with Ferguson. Appreciate the super chat. Abraham Han. Appreciate the super chat. Flacco or Caleb? I would go Caleb again. Flacco is even lower ranked for me this week than Rodgers. And the reason is because, like, if you think about the Bengals, one could argue that, like, I've been saying a lot this week and today that, like, think about Drake May, for example, right? Like, I've been calling Drake May a good play because they're going to beat the Browns, and the way they're going to beat them is because they're going to have to throw. And that's why I like May over someone like Bo Nix, who has a much better matchup. But the Patriots are not going to be able to run the ball well today because the Browns' run defense is good. One could argue that the same applies to the Bengals today versus the Jets because they'll beat the Jets today, but they can't run on anybody. Right? Now, they did run the ball well enough against the Steelers last week, so that's the argument I would use to push back, is that they can run. They're coming off basically a mini bye week, and they're playing the Jets. So I think that the game script goes similarly in this game to how it could go in New England's game versus the Browns, where they just jump out to an early lead and they don't have to throw the ball that much anymore. So, like, Flacco's got this little window without mobility of he needs to throw for 3 touchdowns, right? So, I think that Caleb today, like, I get it. A lot of Caleb questions have come in this week because of the fact that he played so bad last week. And realistically, like 2 weeks ago, Caleb was bad too. But I'll still go with Caleb because that leg upside is there against the Ravens defense, which is atrocious right now. So I'll go Caleb. Appreciate the super chat. Lurker, appreciate the super chat. Pacheco or Woody Marks? Yeah, I keep saying this. I think Pacheco's ceiling is so capped because Brashard Smith is getting more work. And you look at last week, the best game of Pacheco's season in fantasy so far. I mean, what was the upside, right? 12.4 fantasy points. Brashard Smith still outperformed him in fantasy, and he didn't even get in the end zone. Pacheco's upside just isn't high. Like, he's never been a pass catcher, first of all. And second of all, he doesn't even monopolize the carries out of the backfield. So, like, it realistically is not very high. With Woody Marks, the ceiling is high. Like, especially today, because without Nico, I think there's a lot of questions about, like, what wide receiver do I play? Like, Jalen Noel is the best option in Houston this week from the wide receiver's perspective. But Woody Marks, realistically, is going to benefit quite a bit. I mean, last week did show us a lot, right? Like, Woody Marks was clearly the lead back over Nick Chubb. And Woody Marks is a pass catcher, a very good one at that. So I would imagine that Woody Marks gets plenty of opportunities today. And he's definitely the higher upside play than Pacheco. And I think their ceiling, their floors are very similar. I would easily go Woody Marks. Appreciate the super chat. Okay. Next up we have Football de Noche. Good to see you in here. Appreciate the super chat. Hope everything is well with you too. Pitts or Ingram? They're really close. I'll use the comparison feature again, but I'll go ahead and say Pitts is my option. I think even with, actually, I think I am going to change it right now. With Cousins now in there, it changes things, man. I am big on history. I'm big on history and tendencies with quarterbacks. And if you look at last year, when Kirk was the quarterback, Pitts was very hit or miss. And he's still hit or miss. But, like, at least the one thing I've been hanging on to with Pitts this year is he's been consistently involved. Now, we can argue, and probably most of us agree, that, like, he obviously shouldn't have been drafted where he was drafted at in the NFL draft, which is a top 5 overall pick. Like, he's not good enough for that. But what we can't argue is the involvement has been there with Penix. Penix likes to throw to Pitts. So with Kirk in the fold now, everything changes, man. I mean, they play the Dolphins. It's a good matchup, but I mean, Ingram's matchup is great today too. And the one other thing about Ingram is he's been getting involved every week. So again, I'll use the comparison feature. It's going to say Pitts. I'm going to go ahead and disagree with the comparison feature this time, and I'll go with Ingram. But just to highlight the comparison feature here, Ingram versus Pitts. Verdict is Pitts. Again, my rankings were already super close, right? Like, Pitts was ranked one spot over Ingram, and this has not been updated since Cousins has been named the starter this week. So with Cousins named the starter, I'll go ahead and bump down Pitts in my rankings below Ingram, possibly further. So I'll go with Ingram in this one. Ingram's targets and today against the Cowboys in a high-scoring matchup in all likelihood, I'll go with Ingram. Appreciate the super chat. Tariq Washington, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Lost Nico and AJ. Who do I start? One wide receiver, one flex. XL, Xavier Legette. Mooney, Monangai, Brashard Smith, and Spears. Yeah, I think I'm big on Brashard Smith. Like as a stash guy, I'm all in on him. I will say this: he was about to move up my rankings. He was about to take a good jump in my rankings. If Kareem Hunt was going to be ruled out today, I was getting ready to play him over a lot of guys that I had inside my top 30 at the bottom. Like I would have played if there was no Hunt today, I would have played Brashard Smith over Monangai and Tyjae Spears. But since Kareem Hunt is active, it does make me less bullish, I guess, on playing Brashard Smith. I mean, I still think he's a fine play, I really do, but I'm less bullish on playing him for sure because I do think that there's more room for opportunities being taken away from him. And so I'm hesitant to play Brashard Smith over Monangai and Spears, particularly Monangai, because again, if Monangai hits, I think it could hit pretty big. Like you could get like 15. Oh man, that's a bummer. Nick Mangold passed away. Man, that's a bummer. Salute to Nick Mangold, one of the best centers of all time, played for the Jets. Salute to Jets fans. Salute to Nick Mangold, man. That's a bummer. Funny guy too. Man, that's sad. That bummed me out. Yeah, I think Monangai, if he hits today, it could be good. I really do. So I play Monangai over Brashard Smith and Tyjae. Comes down to these wide receivers, man. I mean, the Drake London scenario really is going to dictate a lot. By this time, we should know, is Drake London active? So let's look it up. Drake London, what is your status today? Surprise and active. Drake London, everybody, public service announcement. Drake London is out. Out. O-U-T, out. Darnell Mooney needs to move up everyone's rankings. Darnell Mooney, let the questions flow in. I'm playing Darnell Mooney 100% of the time, Tariq, in your situation. That's an easy call. And so it comes down to XL versus Monangai. Tough. If it's a full PPR, I'll go with Xavier Legette, and if it's a half PPR, I'll go with Legette. But if it's a standard league, I'll go with Monangai. And I'll go with Monangai in a standard league because I think that Legette could be a heavy target favorite, but he needs to be in the end zone for it to work. So if it's standard, I'll go Monangai. If it's even half PPR, and especially if it's full PPR, I'll go with Legette. But definitely Mooney. Everybody needs to listen up. Mooney is a good play. Very good play this week. Drake London is out. Appreciate the super chat. Michael Merowitz, appreciate the super chat. Bourne or Tez, Jennings or Boutte? I'm really I'm lower on Bourne this week. Where are these guys ranked for me? Let's use the comparison feature. Kendrick Bourne versus Tez. Bourne is 5 spots ranked ahead of Tez. Very close. That's why I needed to use this comparison feature, because it's a gut call. And I don't live by the comparison feature on our site, but very helpful tool. You should utilize it. Get a premium subscription to support me and to utilize this type of tool, because it goes based off my rankings and several other factors. They're very close. I would say it's a gut call. Coin flip. I mean, I don't like to use the word coin flip, but I prefer to use the term gut call, and that's how I would say it. It's a gut call, because I think that, the one thing that brings me back with Bourne, even though I'm kind of off him this week because of last week, is the chemistry that he has with Mac Jones. Like, it's definitely there. I mean, he definitely likes Mac Jones, and Mac Jones definitely likes him. And Mac Jones is the starter again today. So, like, the one thing with Tez is that Egbuka's playing, K. Dotton's playing, and so Tez is not a volume guy. Like, Tez needs to get in the end zone in order for it to work. And I think that Kendrick Bourne probably doesn't face a lot of Derrick Stingley today, who I think will probably shadow Jawan Jennings. He could shadow Kendrick Bourne, but I think the majority of the time will probably be on Jennings. So I think there's more opportunity for Bourne. So I'll go Bourne, personally. They're very close, though. Again, gut call. Gut call, do what you feel. I'll go with Bourne, though. That's what my gut tells me. And then Jennings or Boutte. Again, I said it just a second ago. I think that the majority of the game, Stingley is one of those corners I take into account. I think the majority of the game, Jennings will be guarded by Stingley. And that's a problem. I think Jennings is not good enough. Like, he's clearly not healthy, and he's just not good enough to overcome Derrick Stingley. So I'll go Kayshon Boutte over Jawan Jennings. And Bourne over Tez. Appreciate the super chat. Good to see you in here. As always, Michael. Masab123. Appreciate the super chat. Breece is cleared. Who should I start? Mooney now? Mooney 100%. Mooney, I'm going with him over guys like Breece Hall. I'm going with him over guys like T. Higgins. I'm going with him over guys like Chase Brown, Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Xavier Legette. I'm going Mooney in a lot of situations, guys. Bring in those Mooney questions. We're going to find out exactly where I stand on Mooney. I'll go Mooney 100% over Breece. Appreciate the super chat. Andrew Myers, appreciate the super chat. Higgins or Mooney with London out. Yep, I'll go with Mooney. I'll go with Mooney over Higgins. And I actually think T's a fine play this week. He's in my top 30. But Mooney's in my top 25. Just thinking about it right now, he'll be in my top 25 if I ranked again. I already liked it better with Cousins because he likes to throw to Mooney. And now that London's out, give me Mooney, man. Give me Mooney. Appreciate the super chat. RJDM, appreciate the super chat. Caleb or Dak matchup seems really good for Caleb. I'll go with, I actually, oh man, where did I rank these guys? Comparison feature, let's use it. They're close. I know for a fact they're like really close. Caleb and Dak. Dak is one spot ranked over Caleb. Oh man, that's tough. Gut call again. Definite gut call. I would go with Dak. I'll stick with my rankings because of just how good he's been playing. But you're right. I mean, Caleb's matchup is so much better than Dak's. I mean, Dak has to play the Broncos today. Caleb gets to play. Gets to. Not has to. Gets to play the Ravens. Like, that's a much better matchup. So, yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. I really would like to go with Caleb, but I'll go with Dak because of the way both of them have been playing. But again, gut call, they're right back-to-back in my rankings, so do what you feel is right. That's close. Appreciate the super chat. Izzy Drizzy9, appreciate the super chat. Evan Ingram or Mason Taylor, Mooney, merit worthy. I'll go with Ingram over Mason Taylor. The Jets are just a tire fire. I get it. Like, in theory, he should get a lot of work today. I'll go with Ingram. Higher upside matchup, higher upside quarterback. Mooney, merit worthy. Mooney. I'll go Mooney. Yup. I'll go with Darnell Mooney. Appreciate the super chat. Let me go to the bathroom really quick, guys. I'll be right back. All right. Here we go. Nature calls, guys. Nature calls. Okay. Masab123, appreciate the super chat. Pick 2 half PPR, Mooney, Higgins, or Breece. I would go ahead and pick Mooney. Yeah, like I said, I think I may have answered this one. I'll go Mooney. Appreciate the super chat. Brian Gale, appreciate the super chat. I have to drop 2 people between Hunter Henry, Matthew Golden, Harold Fannin, or Stafford. What do you think? Well, what do you think? Henry, Golden, Fannin, or Stafford? Yeah, I think long term, somebody like Fannin actually does have a good amount of upside. Like, Njoku, I mean, maybe they trade him. It's possible that the Browns trade Njoku. Even if they don't, the one thing that I'll stick with Fannin is that I think that Njoku has proven over the years to get injured quite a bit, right? Like, Njoku is not out there for 17 games most times. Like, he's injured quite a bit, so he ends up missing a lot of time. And I do think that will increase his upside a lot because, I mean, it's very clear that Dylan Gabriel likes to throw to the tight end position. It's just when they're both out there, he'll throw to both of them. Like, he doesn't discriminate against one or the other. He'll continue to throw to both of them. So that's the one thing you've got to keep in mind when Njoku is there. His upside is capped. But I will say, I do think that without Njoku, and there will be weeks without Njoku, there will continue to be weeks without Njoku. So I do think that Fannin does have long-term upside. So I would drop Henry, and then I'm not going to drop Golden. And it sucks because I want to keep Stafford because I do think, like, the way I look at Stafford, right, is I say this a lot. I do team breakdowns for premium subscribers, and I say this a lot with these team breakdowns. Like, a lot of times I find Matt Stafford on teams that have shakier quarterback ones, right? Like Caleb Williams, for a while, Brock Purdy, guys like that. And Matt Stafford was never anyone's quarterback one. Like, nobody really was like riding with Stafford as their quarterback one. I think you can do it. Like, I don't know who your quarterback one is, but the way I look at playing fantasy is, like, if you can get good upside and relatively stable production from a what's the word I'm looking for? From a waiver quarterback. If you can get good upside and relatively stable production from a waiver quarterback, I am inclined to take the higher quarterback drafted and, like, the quarterback one and trade him away. Like, I would trade, like, if you have Dak, for example, right? If you have Dak and Stafford, I would be looking to trade Dak to get an upgrade at the running back or wide receiver position. That's what I would personally do. So if you have, same thing goes if you have, like, Caleb Williams, or if you have Drake, I like Drake May, actually. I think I'd keep Drake May. But you get my point, is that I think Stafford can be your quarterback one. So, like, I'd be inclined to tell you, like, before you drop Stafford, because I'm not dropping Golden. I'm going to keep Golden. I really do believe that he could be, like, a late season breakout. But I'm not going to drop Golden. So before you drop Stafford, I would personally try to trade him. And you may be, like, up against the clock. That probably is your situation. But if you have time, like, I would try to see if you can create a trade to get rid of your quarterback one so Stafford can be your quarterback one moving forward. That's the way I would handle it. But yeah, if you have to do it now, I would drop Stafford before I drop Golden. Appreciate the super chat. Unless you're two tight ends, unless you have two backup tight ends, Henry and Fannin, I would drop both the other tight ends. I would. If you only have 2 tight ends and you're asking me to drop one of them, I would drop Henry. But if you have 3 tight ends and you can drop both of them, I would drop the 2 tight ends. That's the way I'll address it. Appreciate the super chat. GT2 Supra. Appreciate the super chat. Flex Dobbins or Stevenson? Yeah, I think Dobbins is in better position today. Better offense, and not necessarily better offense. I shouldn't say that. Patriots have a good offense. Better running game, though. Denver has the better running game and the better upside. I think I've said it a bunch this week. Last year, I made a bunch of videos during the middle portion of the season where I would pick out my favorite, fringe starts and my favorite fringe sits. If I still did those videos, Ramondre would be on the sit video this week. I don't want to play Ramondre very much. I get it in certain circumstances, you've got to do what you got to do with bye weeks and injuries and all that. But I don't think they're going to have much success running the Browns. I really don't. So I'll go ahead and play Dobbins. Better matchup, better running game. Appreciate the super chat. We'll answer some free questions right now while we're in between super chats. Just make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel to show your support. Flex Flowers or Dowdle? Yeah, I think we answered this. I'll go ahead and play Dowdle. Flex McLaurin or Woody? I would personally go with Woody Marks. I think his upside's just better. I think McLaurin's not going to be a good play without Jaden. Should I start Huntley or Mariota? I would definitely go with Mariota. He's got rushing upside. Beth, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Flex a Dunze or Tet? I'll double down on a Dunze. I think I called Rome Dunze a buy low this week. I spent a lot of the week trying to buy him in different leagues. Nobody bit. My leagues are too competitive, I guess, to trade me Rome, but it's worth a shot. But I'll go with Rome because the matchup is so good. And Tet's matchup's good too, but the one thing I keep going back to is Caleb, my one problem with Rome has been that Caleb is a guy who likes to spread the ball around. He doesn't typically hone in on a wide receiver one. Well, ironically, when he played some of his better football earlier in the year, he was hyper-targeting Rome. So the way he's played the past 2 weeks kind of makes me wonder if they're going to start saying to him, hey, just go back and do what you're more comfortable with. You seem to be comfortable hyper-targeting Rome, and it's a good matchup today, so, have at it. Tet, we have no idea what Andy Dalton's going to prefer to do. Based on last year, I would be inclined to say that he likes to target Xavier Legette. That's why I think Legette's a good flex play this week. So I'll play Rome Dunze over Tet. I think his upside is just way higher than Tet's. Appreciate the super chat. And I don't think their floors are that much different. Brian T. Reed, appreciate the super chat. Would you start Rome, T. Higgins, or Debo? Rome. Yeah, I would play Rome again. Now, I don't know why. Maybe I'm wrong. Part of me wonders if you meant to say Romeo, as in Romeo Dobbs. If it was Romeo Dobbs, I personally would still play Dobbs over both those guys. I just like the upside tonight in that matchup, but I'll assume you meant to say Rome Dunze, and I think it's a very clear difference. Again, let's use the comparison feature. The only reason I'm going to use the comparison feature on this one right here is just to show you guys, how differently ranked Rome is compared to T and Debo this week. And the wide receiver rankings are up to date, except for London. And I guess Mooney now that London's out. So Rome, T. Higgins, and Debo. So let's see what I said. Again, yeah, he's my number 11 player this week. Next closest is Debo as my 40th ranked player. I'm a big fan of Rome. I like Rome. And I think I like Rome more than other people do this year, in totality, I think I like him better than most other people do. So I will say, like, maybe I'm a little biased towards Rome. I just think he's a really good player. But, yeah, I definitely would go with Rome. Appreciate the super chat. Let's answer some more. Higgins or Breece Hall? I would personally go with, I'd go with T. Higgins. Just better upside. Bears or Chiefs defense? I would go with the Chiefs defense. Should I drop Judy or Henderson? And Henderson for Rams defense and Brashard Smith. I'm okay with dropping Judy. Not as much on board with Henderson. I still, maybe I'm biased again. I'm keeping Golden. I'm keeping Henderson. I would try to find someone else to drop to get Brashard Smith. I would try to find a different guy rather than Henderson. I'm okay with dropping Henderson because his value is at an all-time low right now. I'd prefer not to, though, because it's going to be really hard to get him back if he ever sees more opportunities. Any locks for today? Days Dreamer asks. I don't know. I mean, there's locks, right? Like, I think that there's no way the Patriots lose. Let's look at the schedule today. I mean, I know the schedule. I just curious. There's a way the Falcons can lose. There's a way the Bears can lose. There's a way the Bengals can lose. Bills, I would say, is more of a lock. I don't think they're going to lose. Patriots are going to win. That's a lock. That feels like a lock. Bucks, I think the Bucks are a lock. Colts are definitely a lock. I will say this. I did place a couple of higher lowers. On Underdog, you can go, put an amount on the outcome of a game. And I put money down on the 49ers winning today, and I put money on the Bears winning today as well. That's what I did. So you can do that on Underdog. There is a link in the description to go to Underdog and use my code FFN to sign up. They'll match your first deposit, 50% up to $1,000 of bonus cash. And it is fun to play on Underdog. Like, I still love Underdog. You don't hear about them as much these days because, we got to get you guys over to our site. But yeah, I enjoy doing that. Alexis Bolanos, appreciate the super chat. Would you start Atlanta or the Chiefs defense this week? I'd go ahead and play the Chiefs. Yeah, the Chiefs. The Chiefs defense, I think that they're just a better. They're just a better defense entirely, and I just think they're obviously a better team. And they're, yeah, I actually, that doesn't count in a couple different factors. Now that there's no London and Kirk Cousins is playing, I would actually rank the Chiefs over the Falcons. So, don't listen to the comparison tool. The comparison feature says they're one spot ranked behind the Falcons defense this week. I'd play the Chiefs defense. Appreciate the super chat. Ty from Wyoming. Aloha over there in Wyoming. I've always wanted to visit. I've heard it's beautiful, especially Jackson Hole area. Appreciate the super chat. Mooney or Dobbs full PPR? Who should I start? Very good question. Keep the Mooney questions coming. Yeah, I'm going to go with Mooney. I will say it's not it's not that far off. I do like Dobbs this week, but, Dobbs is not that far ranked away from T. Higgins, and I said I'd play Mooney over T. Higgins for sure, but I would definitely play Mooney over Dobbs. Listen, I just think, you factor in a couple different things, right? Last time we saw Kirk Cousins, it wasn't good. I'm not defending Kirk Cousins. I have no interest in defending him, but Miami is a bad that's a bad defense. They're circling the drain right now. It's a dome game. There's no weather concerns. And Mooney's all alone with Kirk Cousins, who already liked targeting him last year. Like, does anybody remember that Bucks-Falcons Thursday night game last year where Mooney had like 30 points? I mean, Mooney, he can do that. Like, he's good. Mooney's just a player that has been kind of overlooked lately. So I'll play Mooney over Dobbs. Appreciate the super chat. Dr. Boom, appreciate the super chat. Mooney, Bill, or Monangai, or Jennings, full PPR flex. I'll play Mooney over Jennings easily. I'll play Mooney over Monangai easily, and I will play Mooney over Bill. Mooney and Bill are probably closer ranked. I don't know exactly where I would rank him because I'd have to sit and think about it. And obviously the news about London dropped while I was live, so I can't go and re-rank players right now. But if I had to re-rank them, I would imagine Mooney and Bill are probably close to each other. But I would play Mooney because I don't want to play Bill for a lot of reasons, and I'm perfectly okay with playing Mooney in a lot of situations. You know what's funny is on Thursday night, I had to end the live stream a little bit early to go make a change in my own league. In theory, I could do the same thing. I'm not going to. I'm going to actually just let it ride. But if I was to end the live stream, I would go end it right now. Or not right now, but I would end it like 10 minutes before so I could go pick up Mooney in my Dynasty League and play him over Slayton. But I'm not going to do that. We're going to keep answering questions. But I'll play Mooney over Bill, Monangai, and Jennings. Appreciate the super chat. Tyler Sperry, appreciate the super chat. Good to see you again. Sure, Jags or Rams defense next week. Rams play. Saints, Jags players. Leaning Rams, I would start 3 people from the Rams, though. You know what's interesting about that is last year, towards the end of the season, I started doing defense rankings a week ahead of time. So, like, every week I would obviously come out with my defense rankings for the upcoming week. But at the end of the week, I would come out and do defense rankings for the following week. Kind of just to, like, get you guys, give you guys the opportunity to jump on some earlier defenses for the following week. I think that becomes more prevalent around playoff time, so I'll start doing that again. If anybody remembers me doing that, let me know if you liked it when I did that, because I could definitely bring it back for this year too. So let's look at next week's schedule. NFL Week 9. So the Jags are playing against the Raiders, and then the Rams are playing against the Saints at home. It's so hard to look at the Raiders as a good they're both offenses aren't good. So the Rams have a better defense. I'll go ahead and play the Rams. I would go ahead and pick up the Rams only because the Raiders are coming off a bye week this week as well. And I said it before the bye week, I really do think there's a solid chance that Geno gets benched for Aiden O'Connell, who in theory should be coming back next week. I think it's a very strong possibility, and they could get some more players healthy. Brock Bowers could come back. So they're coming off a bye. They might be stronger. The Saints, on the other hand, haven't had their bye week. They're beaten up, and their offense just isn't very good. And the Rams are a good defense. They're better than the Jags. So I would pick up the Rams. I'm not as worried about playing 3 players from the Rams. Like, I get it. It's not the best thing. It's not the best feeling, especially to have like all of your players, like a third of your starting lineup, basically all from the same game. I get that, but I'm not that worried when it comes to a defense or a kicker. Like if you had Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, and Matt Stafford all in the same lineup, like that'd be a little bit more concerning. But with the Rams defense, I'm not as concerned about that. I'd go ahead and pick up the Rams. Appreciate the super chat. Michael Merowitz, appreciate the super chat. Franklin over Boutte. Great question. I know you're fighting with the Boutte battle right now, I can tell. Because you've asked me a couple questions about Boutte. Let's just use the comparison feature. I'll probably end up going with Boutte, just to let you know ahead of time. I just like to show you guys the comparison feature. I think it's really cool. And again, this is a premium feature, so Michael, I know you're a premium subscriber over here, so you can utilize it. Boutte or Troy Franklin. So close. They're almost back-to-back in my rankings, man. I didn't realize they were that close. I like Franklin this week. I really do. I think the only reason I'm going to stick with my rankings this week is because I've been saying it throughout the day, and I said it throughout the week. The thing with the Patriots that makes me want to play their pass catchers today, even though they should beat the brakes off the Browns, this should not be a close game to where they, in theory, have to throw a bunch. But the one thing that keeps me there with the Patriots is I think their running game is terrible. I don't think they can run the ball very well. And for that reason, it makes me want to play pass catchers because they won't have trouble throwing the ball. They're not going to. And therefore, I think guys like Boutte and Stephon Diggs are good plays. And Franklin, I like him too because they're playing the Cowboys defense. He has upside this week as well. They're very closely ranked. But if you look at the efficiency, and this says it in the comparison feature, it highlights it. Most efficient with its touches and targets. Best fantasy points per snap efficiency. Boutte, when he's on the field and getting opportunities, is extremely efficient this year. Actually, one of the most efficient players in fantasy. The only problem is he doesn't see the amount of opportunities on a per-game basis as Troy Franklin does sometimes, especially in these types of games. So Franklin's a good play. I'm going to stick with my rankings, and I'll play Boutte. But again, Michael, utilize this tool. And I think most people, if you don't get your question answered in here today, because I'm trying to answer as many as I can. I started the live stream pretty early this morning to try to get through as many as possible. There's two tools that you need to utilize if you don't get your question answered today. Go to fsroundup.com, my site. Utilize the start-sit tool where you can post starter-sit polls. You can vote on other people's polls and help them out and get live feedback and results from the community. That's free. If you want the comparison feature that we're going through, which includes my rankings and a bunch of other features that help you decide between matchups, that is a premium feature that you can get when you sign up for fsroundup.com and get the premium subscription at $6 a month now. You guys need to utilize it. But yeah, Michael, I will personally go with Boutte. I'll stick with my rankings. It's a gut call a little bit because they're that close, but I'll go with Boutte. Appreciate the super chat. Migs, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Question in the chat, much love. Right back at you. 14-man half PPR. Jettas, Egbuka, Rice, Sutton, Kyron, Kamara, Woody, Nix, Daniel Jones, DJ Moore, and Hunter Henry. Got offered Bucky for Kamara and Sutton, and he's willing to do it after the bye week for Tampa. I find myself battling this same thing myself. Trading for Bucky Irving sounds like a winning move. In theory, the idea of getting Bucky when he comes back for the later part of the season feels like a league-winning type of move. But I find myself also at the same time really concerned about doing this trade because Bucky Irving, we don't have any news. There is nothing when it comes to Bucky's upside. When is he going to return? Let's read this. Came out on October 24th. It says nothing. Gar. The lack of news that we have on Bucky Irving is so concerning. And I've been saying it for weeks. Like, we know nothing about what Bucky Irving is going to return. We know nothing. That's what concerns me about trading for him. And my gut tells me we should trade for him. I'll also say this. You know, you have Sutton, and I have no problem getting rid of Kamara, especially because I think you could use another running back. And your receivers are, in theory, really good. It's tough, man. Personally, for me, if I wanted to upgrade a running back, and you should, like, your running back 2 being Kamara is a little bit risky. Now, it could get better without Kendre Miller, but it could also stay very close to the same. And Kamara is just not a good play right now. The way I would proceed is like this. If you really want to get a wide receiver or a running back upgrade, I'm willing to use that package, Kamara and Sutton. But before you reject this one, I want to explore. I want to explore and see if you can get that same package and get someone like I want to see if you can get someone like Cam Scattaboo or Ashton Genty or Javonte Williams or Judkins. Like, those 4 guys, I think you should go after those 4. Ashton Genty, Cam Scattaboo, Quinshon Judkins, and the last one that I said was Javonte. I think you should target those 4 guys with that same package. Because you're trying to get that upgrade, and I don't blame you because I think you should try to get the running back upgrade. But Bucky, we have no information on when he's coming back. That is a problem. Because it's not just one injury. He's got 2 injuries, man, he's dealing with. So, like, it feels like a Jaden Reed situation. Like, Jaden Reed always is injured, and obviously he's out right now. We just have no information. Like, he may come back and play after the bye week, but he could be dealing with his injury all year. I'm worried about Bucky. Really am. So, like, I wouldn't outright deny it. I like the idea of it. And probably would do it if you couldn't do any of the other trades I just mentioned. I would try to do that first, though. Appreciate the super chat. Brownhammer 7134. Appreciate the super chat. Tet Pittman or Judkins for the flex. I'd play Pittman. I think Judkins is in trouble today. I've said it a lot this week. Any smart defense, and Vrabel's a very smart defensive coordinator. He's not really their DC, but he's a defense-first guy. Like, Vrabel is smart, and he'll know. All you have to do is shut down that running game, and the Browns are ineffective offensively. Any defense knows that's all they have to do. Like, you only have to stop him, and you're going to be good. So I expect them to stack the box today, and if it looks anything like the Steelers game, it won't go well. So I don't want to play Judkins. I'd play Judkins over Tet still, but Pittman is the easy answer because they're playing the Titans. Matchup is there. Efficient offense. I'll play Pittman. Appreciate the super chat. Arganunya, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. One wide receiver, full PPR. Shakir, Bourne, Jennings, Tez. I'll go Bourne over Jennings, and I'll go Bourne over Tez. Bourne versus Shakir is the real one. Let's use the comparison feature once again. You guys are getting some good exposure to the comparison feature. Khalil Shakir, Kendrick Bourne. Shakir is 8 spots over Bourne in my rankings. And let's get the update. Is Dalton Kincaid playing today? I have a feeling he is. Officially active. So I don't love that for Shakir. That's great for Kincaid, not great for Shakir. I'll play Bourne because of that news. Yeah, I'll go ahead and play Kendrick Bourne over Khalil Shakir. They're close, and we just highlighted it. Comparison feature says to play Shakir, but I'll go ahead and play Bourne. Shakir bumps down in my rankings with Kincaid back. Appreciate the super chat. Eliza Orso, appreciate the super chat. Full PPR, Mooney or Tet. Thank you. Mooney or Tet. That's a good one. That's a tight one. I'm sitting here debating in my head, where would Mooney be ranked? Because I feel like he'd be ranked close to guys like Bill, close to guys like Tet. Oh man, that's close. Walking through it, Tet, my problem with him this week is quarterback uncertainty. Andy Dalton likes Xavier Legette. However, it was last year when they didn't have Tet McMillan, so we don't know. Matchup is good against the Bills. On the other hand, Mooney's matchup against the Dolphins is even better. In the Dome, his quarterback likes him, and he has no London. I know what I want to say, so I'm just going to say it. I'm going to play Mooney. But they're very close, man. That's a gut call. Mooney and Ted, if I had to rank them again, I probably would rank Mooney maybe one spot over Ted. Maybe one spot. Oh, man, that's so tight. That's so tight. Ugh. I'll go Mooney. I'll take Mooney with the chemistry with Kirk Cousins was palpable last year. The matchup is just as good, and we have no idea what the chemistry is between Andy Dalton and Ted McMillan. I think it's better with Xavier Legette. I'll go Mooney. Appreciate the super chat. That's a close one, though, man. That is really close. Kobe, appreciate the super chat. Dumb question, but should I start Fields or Dart? Listen, I always say, there's no such thing as a dumb question in here because I like people who are deep. I like people who are free thinkers. And a lot of times, people who are free thinkers, they can ask questions that may sound stupid to the majority, but, I understand where your head's at here. Fields, in theory, actually has a good opportunity. I remember when the news dropped yesterday that Fields was going to start, I remember actively deciding where should I rank him. In theory, on one hand, the Jets ownership crashed, just absolutely obliterating him is not good for the mentality of him, and it's not good for the team. And their team as a whole is they're just circling the drain right now. So on one hand, I'm yeah, I don't really want to play Fields, but on the other hand, he's playing the friggin' Bengals. And they can't, their defense isn't good already. Their pass rush isn't any good, and he could run for a lot. So, I don't think that that's a dumb question at all. I don't like to think of things as dumb questions. I like to think of you as someone who's a deeper thinker because it makes sense. Like, this one makes sense to play Fields over Dart because Dart is playing the Eagles on the other hand. And that's a bad matchup, right? So, like, this is not a stupid question. Would I go ahead and play him over Dart? I wouldn't. Like, that's just me. I would personally play Dart because, you know, I think the one thing that I hang my hat on with Dart is that even against the worst defenses you could possibly play, the worst situation last week was going to Denver, and he still did really well in fantasy. So he goes to Philly this week, gets a weapon back, and he just, like, they both have legs, right? Now, Fields, when he's on, can win a week based off his legs. Like, Fields can throw for friggin' 150 yards and win a week if he gets 2 rushing touchdowns and, like, 80 yards on the ground, right? Like, that's always there. But Dart has 60 rushing yards in his legs every week, and he also can get in the end zone too. So, on top of that, his throwing is just way better. So I'll personally still go with Dart, but I don't think it's a dumb decision. Like, I think there's a lot of credence, and it could easily happen that Fields has a better day than Dart. It could very well happen, so I don't think it's dumb. I'll still go with Dart, though. Appreciate the super chat. Emyet Igby, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Leggett, Ingram, or Judkins for the flex? Yeah, we're talking about I'm talking a lot about Judkins. And, like, how I'm worried about Judkins as a play. Not that worried. I would play Judkins over Leggett because, I mean, Leggett has a 0-point floor, right? Like, Leggett disappears more often than he appears to be a good player. So, like, I'm not going to go that far with Judkins. So it comes down to Judkins or Ingram. And realistically, like, I'm talking about the upside in this matchup today for the Broncos and the Cowboys game. It's there, 100%, but Ingram is just, unless Ingram gets targeted in the end zone, he's not going to make his way to the end zone. So Ingram has to get, like, an end zone target to get in the end zone. And if he doesn't, then, like, he's going to do what he's been doing, which is, like, 8-point floor, or, 8-point ceiling in a PPR format. Not good enough. I'll take Judkins for the upside. Appreciate the super chat. Evan Feldman, appreciate the super chat. Bears or Patriots? I'll still go with the Patriots. Love the matchup. Stack the box against Quinshawn, you shut him down. Bears defense is good, but I will say it's interesting how the Ravens are still favored in this game, even without Lamar Jackson. So I'll stick with the Patriots. Appreciate the super chat. Happy Dab 820. Appreciate the super chat. J.K. Dobbins or Rachaad White, Otner, Kincaid? I'll go Rachaad White, and it's close. But I like Rachaad White to have, and most of the Bucs players to have a bounce back week. Against the Saints defense, that's a terrible defense, and they'll beat them so they can run out the clock. And Rachaad White also has pass catching upside, especially with all the injuries that are there to the pass catchers. I think Rachaad White is all in all a better play. Rachaad White also doesn't have the threat. Like, they talk about in Tampa, like, oh, we've got 2 good running backs. Well, like, they barely use Sean Tucker. So, like, I don't want to hear about it. You know, like, they barely use the guy. So I'll go with Rachaad White over J.K. Dobbins. Otner Kincaid is a real question because Kincaid is back this week, but he's clearly not 100%. And Otten, on the other hand, getting more important in the offense without all these pass catchers. And I would imagine that this week will be important too. They both have good matchups. Otten had 9 targets last week. That's a lot. The previous week he had 6. Like, Otten is involved, and he's got Baker. Like, this is a close one. I think I'll still go with Kincaid slightly over Otten because Kincaid is a guy who has been heavily targeted in the red zone and down the field. Like, Auden a lot of times is getting, like, shorter to the line of scrimmage targets. Like, you could see that. Like, just look at Kincaid, right? Like, Kincaid's yards per reception, 14.4. That's a good number. That indicates to you 24 targets and 3 touchdowns, 20 catches. What does that tell you? What it should tell you is that he's getting targeted down the field. So, yes, the volume hasn't necessarily been there all the time, but he's getting a lot of targets that are down the field or in the red zone. Now, you look at Tampa, on the other hand, and Cade Otton, yards per reception, 10.5. That should tell you that a lot of those targets are shorter distance, so he doesn't have that same upside that Kincaid does. So when they're that close, that's what my tiebreaker will be. I'll go with Kincaid. Appreciate the super chat. All right, let's run through a couple more free ones while we're waiting on a super chat. Mariota or Stroud, I would go with Mariota. Waddle or Pickens, I would go with Pickens. Mooney, T-Mac, or risk it for the biscuit with Brashard Smith, I would go with Mooney personally. T. Higgins or Jalen Waddle, I would go Jalen Waddle. Waddle or Higgins, I'd go with Waddle. Chase Brown or Judkins, I would personally go with Judkins. I get it, but I would personally go with Judkins. I'm worried about Judkins, though, no doubt. Evan Feldman, appreciate the super chat. Bourne or Mason? Taylor upside. No question, it's there. I saw it. I'm just not a big Mason Taylor guy. Like, Mason Taylor last week had upside, right? Like, Garrett Wilson was gone, and he had 4 targets for 3 catches and 31 yards. Like, the quarterback already stinks. The team stinks. Upside was there last week. It just doesn't make me want to play him. I'd play Bourne. I get it, and I've heard it all week. Like, Mason Taylor's got upside. You're overlooking it. You're sleeping on him. I understand, man. I get it. But I'm still going to go with Kendrick Bourne. I just think his chemistry with his quarterback is way better. Appreciate the super chat. Ignacio Macias, appreciate the super chat. Waiting on your question, so I'll answer a couple of these free ones. Kamara or Dowdle? I would personally go with Dowdle. Okay, Ignacio. Kraft or Dowdle at the flex? Yeah, I think I answered the same question, actually, from someone else earlier. The way I look at this one is Kraft is very well ranked for me this week. Like, he's pretty high in my rankings. I like the matchup upside a lot. Green Bay versus Pittsburgh, I think, is a high-scoring one tonight. And that keeps Kraft in contention to be a very, very high upside play. And if you look at the workload for him, like, it's been pretty good and consistent over the last several weeks. You know, they've got all these receiver injuries. And I will say this, like, the one thing with Kraft that could be screwed up is Watson coming back. I do think there's possibility that he comes back and screws things up. I'll still go with him over Dowdle, and the reason is because I think Dowdle could be in a negative game script. I think there's a legitimate risk with playing Dowdle because if they lose to the Bills today, which I think they will, but if they lose in a fashion that that's a blowout, right? Which I think could happen with Andy Dalton at quarterback, then Dowdle's upside plummets. Because we saw it last week. I mean, we saw it a couple nights ago with Jordan Mason. Like, Jordan Mason and the Vikings. Jordan Mason and the Vikings, they got in this hole really early, and it just made it like impossible to get fantasy upside for a running back who doesn't catch the ball. Now Rico can catch the ball, but I still think that the upside is lower if the game script goes like that. So I'll go ahead and play Doubt. I'm sorry, I'll go ahead and play Kraft. Appreciate the super chat. Breece Hall or Olave? I'll go with Olave. Reneo, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. 49ers or Bears defense? I'll go with the Bears because I think that the Bears defense is better. They're not healthy. I will say that. The Bears defense also not healthy, but they're in better position this week against the Ravens. Ravens without Lamar have been terrible. They turn the ball over. Snoop Huntley is not good. Like Tyler Huntley, they're going to him because Cooper Rush has been that bad, but Tyler Huntley still is not a good player. I'll go with the Bears defense. Appreciate the super chat. I'm trying to move through questions as fast as possible. Jamie, appreciate the super chat. Pick one for the flex, 10 PPR. Opponent is a jerk. Gotta beat him. Yeah, we gotta beat this guy. Pacheco, Marks, or Dobbs. I'll sit Pacheco for Marks. It comes down to Dobbs or Woody. I will play. They're both upside plays for sure. I think the better upside is Dobbs, and you got to beat this jerk, right? So like you gotta go all upside. Like I don't play fantasy any other way, jerk or no jerk, right? Like if I'm playing a jerk off, it doesn't. I don't treat him any differently than if I'm not playing a jerk off. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna go for the win every time. And I'm always going to go for the highest upside. And I'm going to go ahead and play Dobbs because Dobbs is in a better offense. He's in a matchup that I think has lots of upside. And I think the Texans game, on the other hand, probably a low-scoring one. So I'll go ahead and play the Packers. I'll play the Packers option. So yeah, I'll go ahead and play Dobbs. Appreciate the super chat. Reneo said he got an ad while I was answering. Yeah, I'll go with the Bears defense just to make sure you got that answer. Again, appreciate the super chat. All right, let's go through a couple more questions. Zay Flowers or Darnell Mooney? I'll go with Darnell Mooney. Run bit thrash. What's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Egbuka, Kamara, or Jalen Warren? I'll go with Egbuka for sure because the targets were there last week. Not healthy, but I'll go with the targets, and he's just a better player. And I'll go with Warren over Mooney. I'm sorry, I'll go with Warren over Kamara. I think that the matchup is just better. The offense is better, which is crazy to say as a Steelers fan after all the years we've been bad offensively. But Kamara just doesn't. He's not offering upside right now because he's not getting enough opportunities. Simple as that. So I'll let it happen first before I take the shot on it. Warren's been a good player. Warren gets pass catching upside. He's benefiting on all his work this year. Higher scoring upside. I'll take Jalen Warren and Emeka Egbuka. Appreciate the super chat. Mooney or Wan'Dale Robinson? I'll take Wan'Dale Robinson over Mooney. That's probably a line right there. Woody Marks or Matthew Golden? I will take Woody Marks over Matthew Golden. Sutton or Rashad White? I'll go with Cortland Sutton. Kincaid or Calvin Austin? I will go with Kincaid. Kittle or Flowers? I'll play Kittle. Kincaid or Waddle? I'll go with Kincaid. Worthy, Pierce, Mims? I'll personally go with Worthy. Chase Brown or Jalen Warren? I'll go Jalen Warren. Rico Dowdle or Chase Brown? I'll go Rico Dowdle. Pick 3, Pittman, Devonta Smith, Higgins, Pickens, or Mooney. I'll go Pickens, Devonta Smith, and Pittman. All right, we're going to go ahead and end it there. Appreciate y'all being here. Love you guys. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel on your way out. Let's enjoy some football today. And again, go sign up for the premium subscription at FS Roundup. Utilize the comparison feature. You could do a free membership over here and utilize the start-sit polls. Vote on other people's polls to help them and get your questions answered by the community. Go to FS Roundup. Go check out, hang out over there. Check out what we got on this site. Lots of league-winning features at $6 a month. So, love you guys. Let's enjoy some football today. Let's get a win. See you guys tomorrow. Peace out.